He
Oh,
befriended them separately than me. Um, I think one time I was in LA and my parents called me up and they were like, Jared's here in New York hanging with us. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
that is cool. Very cool. Yep. A lifetime ago. But yeah, we had the same manager, and I remember, we knew each other through her, and it was like I remember him getting that role and just having it be such a massive deal. So
Yeah. Yeah. Talented, talented.
So
He doesn't do anything. He's not in the business anymore at all. He had a band. Um, that was a big band in, I don't like this thing behind my head. What the heck is happening here? Looks like plants are growing out of my head.
it's like
Um,
yeah, it's like a little
little mohawk. Let me put it back down and whatever.
it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
that's good. You're good there.
There you go.
I have
So
no control over this. This is the best room. The other rooms in the back are teeny dark.
you're in Portugal.
I'm in Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah. And before we get into why you're in Portugal and
Mhm.
what's that all about, because you're all over the place all the time at the moment, I'm going to quickly read your bio. So, David Moscow is the creator, executive producer, and host of From Scratch. And you just completed season 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And author of the award-winning bestseller From Scratch, Adventures in Harvesting, Hunting, Fishing, and Foraging on a Fragile Planet. He has spent 7 years traveling the world, meeting with rock star chefs and sourcing the ingredients in their dishes with farmers, fish folk, foragers, and hunters in the wild to recreate meals from scratch. David made his feature film debut at age 13 in Big, a little movie you guys might have heard of, starring as the young Tom Hanks. Years later, he starred with Christian Bale in Newsies, which is one of my favorites. He has appeared in dozens of films, television shows, and theater productions over a 35-year career. David develops mixed income, sustainably green apartment buildings. He lives in Los Angeles with his wife and children, adorable wife and children. And then also in our last interview, you talked about one of the things that I thought was so cool is being the producer of In the Heights. Can we mention
Yeah.
that? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not there.
Wow, I love that movie. Oh my God. I have a 9 and 11-year-old. This morning I told them, I was like, you guys, because they know Big. They've watched it a bunch of times. And I'm like, I'm interviewing on my podcast the guy who was the kid on Big. And my daughter, who's 11, she's like, that movie is my childhood. She's like 11, right?
Oh my
So they
God.
love In the Heights. So now they're going to
Yeah.
be like super impressed with me. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. In the my father actually, basically we discovered Lin-Manuel Miranda. My dad was working with Lin's father, Luis, and Luis called up my dad one day and said, because I ran a theater company in New York, and Luis was like, "Can David help my son? He wrote 20 pages of music at college. Can you help him make a play?" And I was like, "Oh no, this is a terrible idea. There's nothing worse than bad theater." And it was a family friend, and I was like, "All right, I'll do it, Dad." So then Lynn and his college buddies came down, and I don't know, 10 minutes in, I was like, "Lock the doors. This is amazing." And we developed it over a year. It went from 20 minutes of music to 40 minutes of music, and then I got Bernie Telsey, who was the casting director of Rent. We brought him on to cast, and uh, this woman who had just produced a movie I was in, Jill Furman, her dad, she had done Drowsy Chaperone on Broadway and was nominated for a Tony for that. And her dad, Roy Furman, is a billionaire, also backs a lot of theater. He did Book of Mormon is his, bunch of stuff. And so I called up Jill. I was like, "You want to come?" And she came down and she was like, "I want to get behind this." And then we brought the Rent people in, and then it turned into, then Lynn became, iconic.
Wow. That's
So cool. That
an
needs to
incredible
be in
story.
every single bio of
Yeah.
yours. That's the coolest thing, amongst many cool things. But you've been traveling so much. One of the places you came to was Portland. And it just so happened that when you were in Portland, I said, go to this specific restaurant. And you were like, that's the one I'm already going to. And I was in LA. I'm like, I can't believe this. I don't get to see you. But how was that? I'm so curious. How was the whole Portland thing?
Amazing. It was amazing restaurant, Kachka. And, I am, my father's side is Eastern European from Belarus and Lithuania. And she's Belarusian, the chef. And, my gosh, what a meal. And then,
Right?
and then when you become friends with her, she invites you back to have more. And
Did you have a
so
lot of different vodkas?
a lot of different vodkas. Don't remember a lot of
How
it.
did you get back?
Luckily we were Ubering everywhere, which was
Okay.
but yeah, and then
And you
crazy.
went and got a rabbit, right?
Yeah,
You foraged a rabbit?
There's a little rabbit farm in Portland in the center of the city, and two amazing rabbit farmers walked me through harvesting a rabbit, which was emotional and sad. My
Mhm.
kids came and they were playing with the rabbits.
No.
They
Oh
were
my.
not there when it occurred, but then they left and had
Oh,
to smother the rabbit. So, but
Jesus. Did you eat the rabbit?
they ate the rabbit.
You
Yeah.
ate the rabbit that the kids were playing with, David? That's but that's a lot of what you're doing, right? It's like this is connecting it. It's not disconnecting. It's like connecting what we're eating.
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
not
point.
allowed to pretend that we're not going
Right.
to eat the rabbit. We're going to eat the rabbit.
Right.
That's why the rabbits are in these cages, right? So
Right.
you
I
have to, if
see.
you're
I
going to
see.
eat meat, you need to understand what it is that you're doing, and then you decide.
Yes. Yes.
And when you get up close and personal like that, you start to eat a lot less meat. You're just like,
Right.
I now know it's not wrapped in plastic. It's not coming from the supermarket.
Yes.
Even at a restaurant, like you're used to, like, oh, this is served to me. I don't know what this was, right? Whatever
Mm,
relationship to it. And then when your face is pressed up against the glass, it's different.
mhm.
So yeah, our family eats a lot less meat than we did before. Um, I said in the book that if I ate two meals that had meat in them from before to now, it's about 35,000 animals. And that's not a rare thing for an American these days, right? It's
Right.
like there's meat in everything. There's meat in
Yes.
lipstick. There's like all
Yes.
kinds of
Yes.
animals in everything we have.
That's right.
And so I'm not including like all you can eat Vegas buffets or
And apparently
some
that's one of the biggest killers of the planet, isn't it? The meat industry.
yeah, the way we oh my gosh, the way we harvest food is destructive.
Yeah.
Whether it's inhumane treatment of animals, to monocultures, to all the pesticides we're putting on stuff.
Mhm.
That look, there's a benefit of agribusiness, and that is poor people used to starve,
Mhm.
particularly in the United States, but around the world, and agribusiness has changed that. Food is a lot more accessible to the world, to the planet.
Mhm.
But in a way, the pendulum has swung in this direction, and now we are having to deal with the fact that, like, what are the repercussions of this? And can we do this better? We have to do it better because the planet is falling
Dying.
apart. That's one of the
Yes.
things that we saw on our journey. Like, I initially started the show just to Trump was running for president, and I didn't like how he was going after Mexicans, and I
Mhm.
thought that was insane. And that, like, here we have these Americans, these friends, these family members who are being attacked, and they're also the people who brought us the taco and the margarita, and like that's undeniable. That whatever the political wins are, if you saw the hard work that goes in, to feeding us, Mexican food is not political. People love it no matter
Yeah.
what, right? So
Yeah.
so let's just show the people who are making it, and that'll change, that'll unify the country in a time when I thought that it was very divided.
I'm curious how you came up with that particular approach.
Well, because
That's
people
what
love food.
sparked that for you. Like,
Oh,
what was the idea? Did you have a moment you're sitting on the toilet and you're just like, this is it?
I
That's
was
all we want to
sitting
talk
in a
about.
restaurant.
The moment on the toilet. Come on, David.
was sitting in a restaurant. I was sitting on my toilet that I call a restaurant. I was sitting in a restaurant in LA.
Okay.
It was a Korean spot. It's got like one of the best short ribs you'll ever have in your life. Sundang Ne. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's a great Korean short rib. And I was looking into the kitchen, and there was a Central American guy, possibly Mexican, and he was
Okay.
washing dishes. And I just thought about how like Mexicans are the backbone of US food, right?
Yeah.
Like they're in every kitchen.
Yeah.
Um, we don't really treat food producers or the people who serve us very well. They're paid badly.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, look at how important this is. And that became initially, as I was going around, that was solidified. Like there are people that everyone agrees need to make more money, nurses, teachers,
Teachers,
people who do public good. And I think
people who
food,
work at JFK, please.
there you go. Yeah, and I think food producers are part of that, right? And that was how
Mhm.
I entered into it. And then you realize, like, Americans in particular think that they're on this island. I did it by myself. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I'm a success.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it takes 68 people to make a pizza slice. So
Yeah.
if you eat pizza, you're not alone. You're part of this whole web of
No one's
people.
independently rich. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. You're on the backs of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then along the way, we started to realize, like, okay, the South China Sea is empty, right? I'm trying to fish there to make a fish sauce in the Philippines, and we can't catch anything. And then you start to realize, oh my gosh, they've lost 90% of their fish in the last 50 years. So what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
And what it means is that, well, China and the Philippines and Vietnam and Taiwan are all fighting over the last remaining fish in this ocean.
Right.
And that is causing territorial disputes. That is causing nuclear threats.
Mm.
That is causing possible World War III
Mm.
over food, right?
Yes, I
That
remember
we're
you
dealing
sharing
with.
this in our last interview. So what's the update on this? Is it still the same?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the Philippines, so, okay, there has been a change. There was a UN ocean agreement that
Okay.
basically, in order to not wipe out all the fish in the ocean, about 30% of the sea needs to be protected, marine protected areas. Basically, you
Yeah.
can't fish, can't mine, can't do anything in these areas. And science has determined that, fish will restock in those areas, these MPAs, and
Mhm.
overflow into the rest of the oceans.
Okay.
And 215 countries signed this deal.
Great.
That's positive.
Yes.
US was not one of them. So that's
Oh my God. Why?
because it's very hard for the US to do anything positive.
Filibusters and like just
On an
people.
international level, it's like the US can't ally with the UN just because of this tearing apart that's happening within our country, right? So that's hard. But I will say that the progressive side of the US was behind a
Mhm.
lot of this agreement.
Yeah.
The progressive side of US politics was pushing for this agreement to get done.
Mhm.
And while progressives are in office, they can back this thing. They can't sign it, but they can work towards that. That'll change if a new administration comes in. And
Mhm.
I don't even know what the Biden administration is doing at this, like, on this level. But hopefully behind the scenes they're doing some stuff. I mean, they talk a good game. I mean,
Right.
I was on a panel with the director of agriculture, and I was talking about how sort of money needs to be funneled towards small farmers.
Yes.
Economically, it's better. It's better for the environment.
Yeah.
And he was
It's better
saying,
for
yeah,
us as consumers. It's better for us.
yep, to know what's going on these farms, right?
Yeah.
And also these small farms have an ability to do they can find a niche of like healthier, organic, regenerative agriculture, and that's the kind of thing you want to buy, And so I said more money needs to be funneled, and he's like, I agree with David Moscow. So they're saying good things, which is
Good.
nice.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's the case.
Well,
So
okay. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So it moved. Like, I still do feel like there's food is a web that binds humanity together, and it
Yeah.
also is a way to see how dependent we are on all the non-humans in the world, the pine trees and the fish and the lions, and everything is connected to
The
us.
circle of life.
That's it.
We want to talk about you.
Oh, I thought that was it. I thought we were done. Podcast over right there. Boom.
I
That was a
have
good out.
questions.
The
I
circle
have
of life
questions.
was a good
I know Amber's burning with questions, so I'm going to let her take over.
Well, yes, I find that all incredibly fascinating, and it's an area that I'm not as familiar with. So I love that I got to learn more about that. And also, I'm always curious. We are always curious because this is the Embodied Woman, Embodied Man podcast. We talk often about what that means, and arriving at a place in our lives where we are in alignment with our divine mission and purpose, which it feels like that's kind of where you're at right now. And so
Yeah.
I would love to hear how that was born. You were an actor, and then you ran a theater company, and clearly the place that you're in right now, you've zoomed out and you're seeing things from a different perspective of how everything's connected and what's your role, right? Like, what's your particular unique contribution to the greater good. And so I'd love to kind of know, was there a catalyst that, besides seeing the man at the restaurant, was there
Yeah.
something else that kind of opened you up to, hey, I think there's more to life than what I have been seeing?
Yeah, and it was brewing for a long time. I was an actor for a long time. I always had this question underneath. I come from a very politically active family, and I always had this question underneath of like, how is what I'm doing helping the world? Is it a selfish profession, or are you doing some good here? And I mean, I sat down at a table. I sat down at a bar once. Liam Schreiber was next to me, who I really respect as an incredible actor. This is something that I've tussled with for a long time. And I said, if there's anybody who knows like what the purpose is, this is the guy, right? The Broadway, amazing theater actor and film and TV actor. And I turned to him and I asked him sort of like, is this selfish what we're doing? Is there a value here? And he got really mad at me. He yelled at me and said, "You're not an actor. How dare you question this?" And so I didn't ever have an answer. No one gave me an answer to this. And I was still searching the whole time until um
I
don't know
can
if
relate, by the way. I had those moments as well as a young actress.
yeah.
Am I contributing value? What is this, because I've always had a deep desire to make an impact. And I felt intuitively that I was here to do that. And
Yeah.
I did kind of grapple with that. Like, how is this that? How does, so yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, at times you're like, this is a popularity contest. Like, what is going on here, you know?
Mhm.
So to then sort of try and find a purpose in it. So I had a crazy health situation. I don't know if we talked about this.
Nope.
So, wow, this is the first time I'll be discussing this anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Wonderful.
But 18 years ago, I died on my bathroom floor and was rushed to the hospital, and they didn't know what happened. And then sort of there were reoccurrences of what was going on over the course of like few years, and nobody could figure out what was happening. And so I said to myself, I was living like, you know, from the outside, a really amazing life. I was like I had a big house in the hills with friends, the Hollywood Hills, and was partying a lot. And I mean, it was a blast. But I started
When
looking.
when was this in relation to your relationship with Carrie?
It was in the last year,
The
which
last year
actually.
of your relationship with her.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I started looking to see if like this was my life, right? Like, what was I doing everything that I wanted to be doing, right? And so things needed to change because I was not doing it. And I also needed to get beyond all these blockades which were stopping me from becoming that person, right? So there was like uh there was the person who like stayed out all night partying and hanging out and living this lifestyle in the hills with friends and doing that, which was, a dream, could be looked at as a dream, but not, um, but sort of empty. And I did end up like I really pivoted. Like I did want to have kids. I did want to get married. I did like I really figured out like who I wanted to be in response to this, what happened. And then and so then I was living in this tenuous place where I could die at any moment and no one kind of knew what was going on. I mean, it came to light over time.
Okay.
Um, and it's still, there is everybody, you know, can die at any moment, right?
Mhm.
But this really puts the pin on it and makes you decide what you're going to do.
Mhm.
So I really said, I have no tangible skills except for this business. How can I be of service using this, with the driving force being that I wanted to live a big life with whatever time I had left? And I said, this was it. Initially, I was, one of the things that when I was working with Lynn, and then I started producing independent features, really working with young auteurs who wanted, people who didn't necessarily have a microphone, to give new voices, because I was still trying to figure out like what I was going to do. But I knew that I could. I knew people with money. I knew people in the business. I could help produce films,
Mhm.
and then um, we were kicking around this documentary about Mexican, field workers basically, and Mexican food. And initially it was just going to be a movie, because that I knew I could get us into Sundance. I could do that kind of stuff. I wasn't necessarily going to be the host. And my agent, this was like the one good piece of advice that he gave me with the year that I was with him. He said, um, that he's like, what are you going to do? You're going to go to Sundance with this. Maybe it gets bought by HBO. Maybe, a few thousand people see it. But if you pick a different food culture every week, now that's a television series. And
Mhm.
that's big. And I said, oh, okay, that's a great idea. So then we pivoted. I couldn't sell it through we were going to have a chef do it, and we couldn't get it sold that way. So I put myself in there, and suddenly we got some traction, and then that was it. And here we are.
Wow.
I've been watching your adventures on Instagram and it's crazy.
You have to see the
You
show.
almost die all the time.
You have to see the show. You got to see the show. It's a good
Thank
show.
you for sharing that. That's a really powerful story. And I think it's really important to be told, because everybody may not have as an extreme of an experience that calls them to why they're here. But everybody has something, some
Yeah.
catalyst. So I think that's a beautiful story, and it makes a lot of sense why you're doing what you're doing now.
Well, thank you. I think that the ticking clock is a is a it should burn within all of us, right? And
Yeah,
mine just was put in my face a little bit more than others. So
I didn't mean to
beautiful.
skip over that moment. That is very vulnerable of you, David, to share that with us. Thank you.
well, I feel safe here, so that's nice.
You are
Oh,
safe here.
we love that. That's what we love to do, is to create safe space and and share honestly with other humans about our lives and our stories and why we're here. And I think that's just beautiful. And I think that's a really big takeaway for anyone who's listening is, you know, how do you want to spend your life and what contribution do you want to make? And how can you use, you know, like you said, you looked at your life and you said, this is what I have available to me. These are my resources. These are the people that I know. These are my talents. These are my gifts. How can I bring that all together and create positive impact in this world? And I think that's what we have the opportunity and the invitation to be doing, to look at our life and say, okay, what are my gifts? What are my talents? What are my resources? How can I bring that into what my unique purpose is? So I think it's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, I think I'm reading this book right now called Ministry of the Future, by Kim Stanley Robinson. I highly recommend it. It's pretty neat.
Okay.
And he's talking in it about how we need to look at the world right now. Like economically, people talk about GDP and like that's the success, and that needs to change, that measurement needs to change. It needs to change into something that's closer towards like, are we protecting our biosphere, like the planet, humans, like that needs to be the GDP. And so that would completely rearrange, you know, what we view as success and how, you know, that whether we're driving the planet into, whether we're driving ourselves into extinction and all of the animals around us. So figure out, you know, what's important, the goals that you want to do, and change your mindset, you know, in a sense. For me, you know, I had to check out of the popularity contest. I had to sort of take a step back and say, all right, I may not have a lot of money if I do this. You know, indie film is not, you know, where money is made. But is that okay for me? And then I remember, you know, when my wife and I met and we became serious over time, I had to have that conversation with her and say, listen, I may not make a lot of money. This is not my goal. My goal is this. And are you okay with that? I will be consistent. I will not change from this. So if you have to know. Now she knows what it's like later on. She's like, what did I do?
What I say yes to.
And I'm like, I am consistent. You signed up for this.
Yeah, I was honest and upfront.
That's right.
Beautiful. So good. I could keep talking and I have many things to say, but I know that Siri needs to talk and also we need to let him go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you need to go? What's your time like?
I think I have like 5 minutes.
Okay. So we should ask you, what does it mean to you to be embodied? What does that feel like for you in particular? There's no right or wrong.
Be embodied. I think that what it reminds me of is a story that my dad said. He told me that at a certain point, and this actually connects to what I had just talked about with regards to talking to my wife about my path, is that he said that at a young age, he decided that he was going to do what he wanted to do, and he wasn't going to live for what other people wanted him to be. And that was a big shift for him. And he's continued to do that his whole life. That he has really kind of stuck to who he is as a person and who he ended up wanting to be. And I discovered that later. But I think that is what embodied means to me, that, you know, fulfilling my purpose in the face of other people's needs, maybe, or other people's wants, really. And sometimes that is part of what I want. You know, obviously my kids and my wife and people I care about, like they're part of my purpose. But yeah, staying true to who I am, I guess.
Yeah, it's like authentic integrity. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That's
That's
beautiful.
perfect.
Love that.
Perfect.
Do you have certain practices, last question here, that when you feel disembodied, you feel out of alignment, you feel like you're not in your mission or your purpose, you're not in integrity or you're people pleasing or whatever it is, like what
Mhm.
helps you come back when you get lost?
Huh. I think working out is a really healthy thing for me, that I forget about,
Mm.
you know. It's hard on the road. It's hard when you're faced with delicious food all the time. And there's a lot of camaraderie around food with food producers and chefs and all that. They just want to share what they have with you all the time. And so you'll wake up like, if
Like
you
a
see the,
Jewish mother.
oh yeah, and they want to just give and share, and you'll be like, if you see the show, we did 20 episodes in a row, and I went from 169 and gained like 25 pounds at the end. You see me growing with each episode. And so I forget sometimes to take care of myself. I forget sometimes to walk, to go to the gym, to get sleep. And so those will get me back on track whenever I start to go astray and get frayed and um, stressed and anxious and whatever. Uh, you know,
And
I'm in
is
Portugal now,
nature a part of that for you as well, being in nature? Because you're in nature all the
getting
time.
out, getting out, outside in the sun, walking. Um, I I love to swim. Um, I try running. I hate running.
A
So
lot of
I
people
mean,
hate
I
running.
Me too.
hate
It's okay.
running. I try, but I
Yeah.
give up. So I try and find things that I really like, and so swimming is something I really enjoy. I do enjoy hiking to places. I like to go to places like here in Portugal. My son's school is a 6-minute drive and an hour and a half walk. So I will drive the car, drop him off, walk home, leave the car, do my work, walk back to the car, take him from school. And
Wow.
that is through the mountains here. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Um,
That's very
and
neat.
so we were in Sri Lanka and I was fishing off these fishing stilts. I highly, I had no idea about these until doing this show. People should go look up, Google Sri Lankan fishing stilts. So I was on the top of one and I fell off, landed on my back,
Mm.
went to the hospital, ended up in the hospital.
Hmm.
It was not my last episode of the season, so they put me on a whole bunch of drugs. Finished Sri Lanka, went to Thailand, finished Thailand. Basically, was like, I need to just chill. So we came here to Portugal, and I'm kind of rehabilitating this insane back thing,
Yeah.
and that's what the hikes are,
Okay.
and going to the gym, and
Didn't
yeah,
you also get like stung by, didn't something sting you
yeah. So
recently?
in Thailand. So I fell off the stilt in Sri Lanka, landed on my back in about a foot of water, managed to get through that day. The next day I woke up, I couldn't stand, couldn't sit, couldn't lay down. It was painful. So I had some like low-level medication, took it, got to the hospital that evening where the doctor was like, you need an MRI. I was like, I need some meds.
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow, you know, uh, and so then we went to Thailand where I was harvesting. Sorry, my wife is talking to the window. Oh, okay. Give me 2 seconds, you guys.
Okay.
I have to open the door. I have to open it.
So amazing. Because here's the thing, we could talk to David for days on end
Oh,
because of
so
the
many other
amount
questions that I
of
had. Yeah.
stories
Yeah.
that he has from all of this adventuring,
Yeah. Maybe
but
we'll do a part
also
two.
but also about growing up and the realizations and all of that. I mean, you've got to have a book about your life, right? Is that starting? Have you started that?
Well, initially before we got into, before I decided to write the book about the journeys in the first 2 seasons, which I highly recommend, go get it from scratch, Adventures in Harvesting, Hunting, Fishing, and Foraging on a Fragile Planet.
Yes, we'll put a link in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to do, I was kicking around like a memoir kind of idea. It was going to include the show, it was going to include, early work. And there may be one in the future, like later. But I kind of felt like it was, I was still discovering who I was, and this part of my life feels huge, and I want to see how this plays out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
so
you're busy.
I fell on the stilt. Then they drugged me up. We went to Thailand, and we were harvesting the eggs of these red ants. They eat them. We made them in a curry with the #1 chef in Asia, incredible, called Ladoo is the name of the restaurant. It's in Bangkok. And so we did he did a river prawn dish and this red ant egg dish. So we were in Isan, which is in the sort of northeast, and we were going after these ants, which they are, oh my gosh, what are they called? They basically tie leaves together to form a ball. Weaver ants. They weave these leaves together, and inside you poke them with a stick, and then they run down the stick at you, and in there you shake it out, and there are all these eggs that fall into a little basket. But
Okay.
meanwhile, stinging ants are coming at you down this pole, and you're trying to get it
God.
done when they get you. So they were on me.
That's
They were on me.
crazy.
And I was running from them, and I didn't see a barbed wire fence. So I hit the barbed wire fence and immediately go bam, like so hard that everyone went, and then whatever positive like healing that had happened to my back over the last week was immediately thrown out. And
Goodness.
so once all the meds wore off, like once I ran out of the medications, I was like, I need to go someplace and just sit and like just
Yeah.
chill. So here we are in Portugal.
This is you're living the final chapter of the first memoir, but it's not quite done yet. So you're waiting to find out what
I
the
hope
ending
it's not
is.
ending anytime soon. So maybe that's part of it.
That's the
Maybe
first
I'm like,
book.
I don't want to like, break my luck, right? Like if I start writing the final memoir.
Well, it's not like you have
knows?
all this extra time. You're so busy.
But like you
so
just
it'll
said,
come
it's
later.
your own advice. We live as though, right? The time, so now is the time. The time is now.
Maybe, yeah. Well, look, I think it's percolating. I know stories that will make it, that'll be fun and interesting. And
You got a
yeah.
lot of them. We want to
Well,
hear
I
more
just wrote a book,
stories.
and it's quite a process. So I will encourage you to.
Are you writing?
I wrote a book. It was launched last month, and it's a
Amazing.
memoir.
Bestseller on Amazon.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an incredible process, and it is part of the healing process. So if you are feeling it percolate in any way, I would highly encourage you to follow that and say yes to that invitation.
Yeah. No, I will. I'm going to. It's also daunting,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Daunting looking down
Very
that.
daunting. Yeah. But
So,
you're in alignment, and you're creating what you're here to create, and that will just be another part of that, if you desire.
yeah. I hear that. Yeah.
All right.
Well, David, you're such an interesting, fascinating person. You've had such an arc. That's why we're saying we want to read your book, because you've had such an incredible life and you're still in it. It's an honor to be your friend for so long. It's an honor to get to have these opportunities with you. I really find you to be such a dynamic person. And on so many levels, it was interesting. My dad listened to our interview and he said, I knew David was a nice guy or good guy or what talented, whatever, but wow, I didn't know he had this whole other side to him. So when he was hearing about, everything you've gotten into, and it's really amazing. And I think it's obviously a testament to your parents, because your parents are so
Definitely.
amazing. And your poor wife having to watch you go through all of this.
I can hate that.
All of these
She's
scary things that you do. Oh my
She
God.
begs the producers, like, don't let him climb a coconut tree. Like, anytime there's something that's going to be like wild, she's like on them to make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
And then I do it anyway.
Understandably.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, totally. But is she having fun traveling the world?
Yeah, I mean, this last bit, so we knew that first 2 seasons she was working. She was the breadwinner of the house, and we were getting this off the ground. And then we found out that we were going to do 2 seasons in a row, seasons 3 and 4, which meant I was going to be gone for a long time. And I didn't want to go away without the family.
Yeah.
And obviously she didn't want to be a single mom at home.
Right.
So she quit her job, and we packed up the house. We're homeless, and then
Nomads.
nomads, and then she joined, and it's been an incredible experience. We didn't know how it was going to be with 2 little kids, and she's definitely taken the brunt of the hard work on that. She
Bless
keeps the house.
her. Bless her.
Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
come home and everyone's like, I'm like, yay! I like shake everybody, get them all riled up, and then I gotta work the next morning.
Such a dad thing.
Yes.
But no, I think it's been a blessing to be able to have the kids this close on the journey.
Yeah.
And they go and harvest with me in a lot of the places they've been there. And
What an incredible education
gift.
you're giving
What a
them.
gift.
Right?
Yeah, huge gift.
Incredible education.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm trying to be respectful of your time, so we can.
Well, yeah, they're all.
We can do a part 2. We'll do a part 2.
We will put
back.
everything in the show notes. So if you want people to find you,
Yes.
the best way that they can find you is.
So we are on Amazon and Tastemade. So Tastemade is our producing partner.
Okay.
You can find us on Amazon, DirecTV. Tastemade has a YouTube channel, and now I think we're going to be on Samsung Plus. So wherever Tastemade is, they're also on like Tubi and Roku, and they have their own apps.
Okay.
And that's where we are.
Okay, and then for the book, where do you want people to get the book?
The book can be gotten anywhere, your local bookstore, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of those. We are.
Great.
Yeah.
We
Fabulous.
love you,
So wonderful to meet
David.
you.
We love you. Thank you so much. We'll see you
Doing
soon.
good work. Keep it up.
Yes.
I'll try.
Heal yourself. Get better.
Yes, and be careful.
Will do.
All the mom things.
Yeah. My wife has called you. She told you to tell me.
We're all connected.
Yeah,
We're all
we
connected.
got her back. Yeah. All right, we're gonna
right.
Bye,
wrap up.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
David.
you.
Bye.
Bye. That was so surprising to me. I wasn't sure where that was going to go.
Oh,
and it was
totally
really
surprising.
beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was like kind of in shock that he was sharing this, because I've been friends with him this whole time and I never knew he almost died, or that he did die, and that he was having these recurring situations.
NDEs.
Yes, near-death experiences.
Yeah.
Which I think are so fascinating. I would love to.
I'm so fascinated.
I've read some books and I've watched some TV shows.
Yep.
Have you done that as well? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. In fact, one of the gals that I've met, her name is Anita Morjani.
Okay.
Her most recent book is Sensitive is the New Strong, and it's an incredible book about
Ooh.
being highly sensitive. But
Yeah.
before that, she wrote a book about her near-death experience. That was what kind of was her main catalyst to. She's yeah. If you look her up, if you haven't heard of her already, she's quite known in our world.
I
Yeah.
love anything about near-death experiences. I just think it's
Oh, me too.
fascinating. I love
Me
it.
too. No, there was a book called Closer to the Light, and I remember being younger, and my family went on a family vacation, and we were on a boat, and my sister and my mom are reading, like, fiction books, and I'm like, I want to hear about what happens when you die in the spiritual realm. And oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
obviously.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we just touched the surface with him with that conversation.
Yes, that's
It was very
that's a whole
courageous and
episode.
very vulnerable of him. And he said it's because he felt safe, which is such a, you know, a gracious, I mean, anyway, I feel really honored that he felt comfortable to share that.
Oh, so do I.
Yeah.
I think that just validates what our intention is what we are offering, is to provide a
Mm,
safe space.
yeah.
That was like confirmation that, oh, we're
Yeah.
doing that,
Yeah.
especially with a
Yeah.
man, right?
It's
Because it's not always
amazing.
as easy.
That's the thing. It's like creating safe spaces for men. Yes. Yes.
I'm all about it. I am all
Yes.
about it because that's so important to
It's
allow for
not
healing.
it's not easy for anyone
No.
to be vulnerable, but especially for men. And especially if you like
Yes.
if you kind of like, well, he kind of, I guess, made peace with the whole popularity contest, reputation, that whole avatar of like who he is. Like it seems like he's kind of made peace with that. Well, I know you have a
Yes.
class,
Well,
you're
yeah.
getting to, right?
I am. I gotta go move my body. Speaking of that, like that's exactly what David said. He knew that, when he needs to kind of get back into alignment, he needs to work out. And for me, that is at the top of my list. So yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go move my body, sweat it out, come into the center, come back to my center. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm there. I just need to not I need to stay focused on all the things that keep me there.
That's right. That's what we all need
That's
to
right.
do, is just stay focused on the things that keep us in that good vibration, in knowing our power.
One angel card that I pulled, and then we can go, was this morning was called Decide to Be Happy Now. And
Mm,
it talks about, like, rather than waiting for something outside to happen in order for you to be happy, you can be happy now, and you can focus on all the things that are going well in your life and all the things that you have control over. And so I'm like, okay, I can do that. I have some really wonderful, exciting things, right? I have the show with Megan coming up that I get to come see you, that I get to speak at. That's incredible. I have a podcast episode coming out today with Jana.
oh,
Yes. So that's exciting. And
yeah.
I get to go work out. So yeah, so focusing on what is going well in our life today.
Yes, that's what I always like to say. I say, what's working? What's working?
What's working?
Well, for
Yep.
you guys in the audience, call to action. Can you focus on today? What's working for you? What's working in your life? And how can you move your body?
Yep.
Those are 2 calls to action. Love you.
Beautiful.